Buddy, when I was here last year, I came last summer, and you had an ocean of little 4-inch potted seedling azaleas that you had crossed for looking for various attributes in these Encore Azaleas.
That's right.
Right, and now they've been potted in over the last year. And how big are they now?
Yeah, well, you know, even though I don't really force them with a lot of fertilizer, this seedling from germination is less than 2 years old. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
you know? And this was in a 4-inch last year. It was only about this. About that small when we potted in a 4-inch, but this is one of them.
How many are in these 3 rows or so?
Well, there's about 6 rows. There's about 25,000.
25,000.
25,000 in 6-inch containers.
And they're all genetically somewhat different, potentially, because they're crosses, and
that's true.
You're not going to introduce 25,000 new Encore Azaleas, are you? Okay, right. So how are you going to whittle them down?
Well, we whittle them down just by physically looking at leaves. You know, we were at one, and even though there's a lot of seedlings here, there's a lot of different groups that we know what the breeding program or the breeding target was, what traits we were looking for.
Right.
And we were looking for a certain leaf color.
Yes.
Well, actually, this isn't all the 25,000. There's more over there.
So you've been pulling out the ones that are showing the traits that
we start pulling out plants that show the trait in the leaf, and I've been breeding for leaf color and different things with the leaf.
Right.
That's easy to find.
Gotcha.
But now we're also doing some work with fragrance. Now that's a tough one.
Right.
And that project stems from a couple 10 years ago. Then I'm doing back crosses.
Right.
But we have to literally let them grow and see. Really, I guess if I'm doing fragrance, I have to smell every flower. But I probably won't do that.
Yeah. So in the fall they'll obviously bloom in the fall. Do you do something to trigger that bloom a little bit?
No. And these. No, I don't do anything. There's no chemical.
Yeah. I mean, I know the Encores are going to bloom in the fall.
Right.
I'm just wondering if you're fertilizing them too much or anything like that.
Well, I fertilized them one time.
Right.
And then I'm not going to fertilize them again.
Yeah, because that can help. Being a little lean can sometimes make them bloom a little more.
They'll tend to set. I've noticed they tend to set bloom buds if they start stressing out, and they're really not stressed out. It's just that I don't want them too juicy. I don't want them all juiced up from fertilizer.
Gotcha.
And we want them to set bloom buds. And another thing, as you can tell, there's a lot of plants in here, and they're pot to pot.
Yeah.
So they, the ideal thing would be to space all these.
Yeah.
But just space wise. But so that's why I don't want to put any more fertilizer on them. But honestly, they look good. They're growing great. They don't need fertilizer.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the thing. And so we just start eliminating when they start blooming, and we see one that we don't like or a color. We slowly start, eliminating them. And and this group here, it may take me 3 years or 3 cycles to eliminate a lot of them.
Right. So you're looking, it's plant form and vigor, it's flower color, it's stem color, it's foliage color.
Right.
Maybe fragrance. Hopefully fragrance is the bucket list item. Fragrant Encores
with just some good luck, maybe a yellow blooming would show up.
Right. I got
But if you're shooting for the sky, you just will to go for it,
Yeah.
But these here, and you never know what's going to show up.
Yeah.
So when you got this many plants and they're all genetically different, there could be anything showed up, and that's what I'm looking for.
And for those folks watching, the craziest part of that is you may whittle these down to 10, 15, 20 plants. And then it's got to go through a test of can the nursery grow it, and will it hold up in the ground over some period of time. So there's so much going on.
It
might just be a great container plant, and you may find that out after all this.
That's true. And I've seen plants that actually failed in production.
Yeah.
Where you start mass producing it.
Yeah.
And so and usually we'll start the production asexual not mass production, but on a small scale.
Right, trials,
a
500 trial, trial 1,000.
You know, and we leave them in, I believe today it's supposed to be 100 degrees, so they get subjected. You know, winters come, I don't really cover them up. They're just here.
Right.
They're here.
Yeah, they got a survival of the fittest.
They got to survive.
Yeah, and with 25,000, you're going to find.
That's true, and the weather sometimes helps eliminate. But honestly, a lot of these that are here are second and third generation, and a lot of them's got cold hardiness in them. So, you know, you never can tell about cold weather. They might get down to 0 here. You never know.
So these were crosses from 2 years ago, but last year, when you went to do all your crossing, what happened with the heat?
Well, you know, last year was kind of a tough year because that Christmas we had a lot of cold weather.
Right.
And it kind of damaged the plants. Well, the plants survived that. And then in April, we had a severe freeze that basically burnt and fried the bloom buds and all like that.
Yeah.
And so our actual crossing, unless we had them protected in the greenhouse, we lost them. However, following that up, we had 108 degrees. So that was like 3 events in the same time frame.
Right.
You know, that was horrible on plants. So every year is different. You just gotta go for it and just keep going for it. But so far this spring has been nice, and this summer is going to be hot, but I hope not as hot as last year.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a test too.
Yeah, it's good. It's kind of interesting because I'm down here. Last year when I was down here, it was a little bit later than this, but it was not that far after the 4th of July. It was 100 and some degrees down here.
Yeah.
This week I'm down here, it's 89, 90, and it's 100 at the house in Raleigh. Right. So I escaped. I think maybe I've escaped the 100 degree to weather for this year. So thank you so much, buddy.
Well, thank you. Thank you.